And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Desoray Kencayd from Pet Ufology. She is a UFO investigator who decodes orbs. Desoray, thanks for joining us and welcome.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, how did you get into all this stuff, Desoray?
Oh, wow. Okay. So it really, I've always been interested in the whole community, but what really got it going was when the Jersey drones really started taking place. And I was watching live streams on TikTok, one specific account like crazy. He was really close to the Jersey area. So it was a lot of footage happening. And he would watch drones, and every once in a while he'd see an orb. And I started analyzing the drone footage. What I first did was start looking at the lights, because I noticed the flashes looked odd. And so I'd slow them down and zoom in on them. And I was trying to pick apart those drones. What were they, right? And so the live stream guy that I was watching, he kind of encouraged me to turn my attention towards the orbs. He pointed out to me that it really looked like there was shapes happening inside, that there's these wheel patterns that everybody was noticing. And so that really got me to switch my focus to the orbs themselves. And I noticed that those shapes were going through what seemed like a pattern. And I thought, wow, that really reminds me of Morse code, of like just basic SOS. And when we've heard of other signals coming from space and things, and they've been ASCII and they've been binary, like even crop circles often have binary within them and can be tracked. Like a frequency can even be generated from some of these crop circles by the specific mathematic angles of everything. There's binary encoded. So knowing that, I thought, okay, it's too much. So I have to really break it down. I started looking through and noticed there was absolutely a repeated signal. When I did my first one, I did it on a still image, just one image of an orb. And I found mind-bending things, which made me realize, if I can find this in the image, imagine what I can find in a full video using a similar process. And that's when I really hit gold, because the syllable words that break down out of this repeated structure, that's where the information is within these syllable words. And I'm getting a bit ahead of myself there, but that's where it all started. I realized this is too much like what Dr. Greer had talked about way back, the advanced or the Merkaba meditation that he taught. I had seen a YouTube video previously and done a meditation process with him through that video, just like a guided meditation for activating your Merkaba. And the syllable words that he has for activating that, which is my na ma, reminded me, like, it's the same structure, it's the same kind of syllable words, it's the same, 2 letters, 3 letters kind of thing. And that matches with what is coming out of these orbs. So after finding those and then cross-referencing those with linguistic structures of ancient languages, I cross-referenced with every ancient language to see if any of the structures matched whatsoever. And they matched perfectly with the ancient Sumerians and a little bit of Akkadian and Mesopotamian as well, but specifically the Sumerian. And a little bit of the Dogon tribes cosmology as well. It's very interesting. But
some people see orbs in their house, which are kind of small. And then some people see bigger ones outside, and some of them look like plasma that's moving.
Yeah.
Which orbs are you referring to?
There are multiple varieties of orbs, even amongst the orbs that I work with. But as you stated, there's a whole nother form of orb that is often indoors, can be outdoors, but usually only shows up in photography, or sometimes in a video, but usually aren't seen with the human eye, but seen through the photography. Those are not the same orbs that I'm dealing with. It has a completely different behavior and structure. It is in no way the same signal being produced. It is not coming from the same source. That's a good way to say it.
So are you seeing the type that are spherical or that look like molten plasma that just keeps moving around?
Yes, that is the kind I am dealing with. So the orbs that I work with are plasma like. They have plasma behavior. Um, they're colorful, they're flickering and flashing usually. Sometimes they're white, sometimes they don't have a lot of colors happening, but they're always flickering and flashing. They're very because of the movement that's within, that's where that signal is. Yes, the flickering and the flashing and the colorful, that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for, is this the kind of orb that we're dealing with? Because you're looking for the flickers and the color.
Is the orb a craft or a sentient being?
The orbs do not have any physical structure. When I talk about structure within the orb, I'm talking about light analysis, and I'm talking about geometry structure built within light by frequency. And this works very similar to the way somatics works, where you can see visual audio in a geometry pattern in water or sand in certain circumstances. The same audio always produces the same geometric image because it's a specific frequency and it radiates, it just vibrates at that visual image. It's that specific geometry. And so any structure that is within that orb is only produced by a similar process of frequency causing this activated plasma to behave in this way. There is no craft inside. They are, from my findings, and this is not interpretation, this is fact, this is science, and it is extracted directly from the orb itself, that they are an advanced form of Merkaba. A lot of people know Merkaba in multiple traditions and spiritual practices and philosophical practices of it's an advanced, or sorry, it's a light vehicle for your consciousness. But as we've always known it, it's a mental travel, not a physical light vehicle, but it is a mental form of travel in meditation. But what they are doing is, and when I say they, I mean whatever being consciousness is reaching out through these orbs is inlaying that's activating the plasma in the air and the energies in the air. It's breathing intention, frequency, and geometry because of its frequency and intention into this plasma and activating it, energizing it into this literal light vehicle for their consciousness. They are not inside that ball. Their consciousness travels in the same way we would in our mental form, but theirs is this extremely advanced process. And not to get ahead of myself, but I'm releasing a video very, very soon breaking down all of this. It's from a previous find, but I had never gone into the depth of it because I wanted to fully understand it first. But to answer your question a little bit better, there is no vehicle. It is plasma, it's structured light carrying a signal, and that signal is a transmission. And there is consciousness within that light, which is why people can talk to the orbs and they'll respond with a flash. You know what I mean? Because they hear you. Their consciousness is within that orb, but they are not.
Is it like they're having an out-of-body experience and their complete consciousness is there? Or is it like they're astral traveling, or even less, they're like remote viewing?
That is a fantastic question. And I do not have a for sure answer for it. But my best interpretation would be that it is more of a astral projection. I think that they can respond, so they're consciously hearing you actively at the time. So I think that would be more of a, yeah, like a projection of their consciousness.
Where do you think they are? On a craft or in another realm, or what?
Well, that's the thing, you know, all the only things that I say it's this or that is stuff that the orbs I've extracted and it's explained through that linguistic structure. So what they refer to it so far has been breathing across worlds. They're breathing across worlds. And the syllables that we are meant to speak that are within these are the same ones they're speaking to create this light vehicle. And some of them are using more interpretation, like they're not just making the light vehicle and their consciousness within to travel to say hey, you know what I mean, or to be seen. There's crucial helpful information within, and whether they're inside the planet, whether they're underwater, like they've talked about underwater bases, whether they're interdimensional and they're talking breathing across worlds as in dimensions, or whether they're talking interplanetary across worlds. I do not know this. Not yet, but I hope to know more.
If you are saying that you've decoded the orbs, does that mean that you have a dictionary of all these syllables and what they mean?
What I've done, okay, the first thing I do is I track structure over time. I'm following light patterns over time, and I'm extracting layers of frequency and layers of color. Okay. The color and the flickers are all the signal carrying that transmission. So when I when I break down the full code and it comes out into these syllables, so like ZN, so ZIEN, okay? After I find those syllable words, that's when I go and cross-reference with these, with the actual historical documents online, like the lexicon. There's a bunch of historical records of their structured languages. And when I found that they match consistently across the board, every orb, every time, this is repeatable. It is not any kind of interpretation. It is mathematically provable and repeatable. The syllables themselves, the meaning is then found within those Sumerian understandings, or sometimes the Akkadians if it's a different syllable that, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of crossover, but the basis is really in the Sumerian. But just to be clear, they did not invent this language. This is a found language for them and a found language again now. But so I'm getting the meaning, the understanding of these syllable words by looking at what the Sumerians used these words for and in what structure they used these words for. So just like in English, you know, a certain word will sometimes mean something different if it's placed in a different part of the sentence, right? But it still has the same meaning, but it could mean animating something, or it could mean breathing life into something, right? Like it it has a slightly different meaning depending on where it lives within the sentence. But that's the only like variable. Otherwise, it's so no, I don't have a list of syllable words with meanings before this, but now that I've been extracting all of it, yes, I do have a way bigger understanding on what these words mean.
Now you're saying that this is a found language, right?
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that mean that these beings are not Sumerians, but somehow
No.
they found their language and are using it as a tool?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
And
The Sumerians found it.
and they're expecting us to know that language?
No, I don't know. My best guess is that they're just hoping someone cracks the code, and there is historic referencing to all of this. So I don't know how they knew one day it would be understood. You know what I mean? But these are the same beings, and whether they're older beings or the same culture of beings, are they this, do they die? And well, this is the thing is, okay. The beings literally said in one of the orb extractions, I do not die. And there's a big breakdown explanation within that contact phrase that came from that big red orb that says, I do not die. They're trying to describe, I think, to us that as a whole, we do not die. You know what I mean? Our consciousness goes back into the great consciousness bubble of consciousness, the universal consciousness. And I don't know what progresses from there or whatnot, or whether, but I think their concept there was to say, we do not die either. But my point is that these are the same beings, whether the same culture of beings or the specific beings, who reached out across multiple points in history. And that's why I'm able to find these syllable words and their meaning and their understanding by looking back at these other points in time where they've had contact with humans previously. Like in the Sumerian civilization, because they called these, like, it was like a mantra triad. And when I first started extracting them and putting out the tutorials for everything I was finding, because using it produces orbs, that's the most exciting part about the finding, is that it's not something you just have to believe. If you can't get the science behind it, because it's very complex, you can use the findings and see the reaction firsthand. So it's very hard to deny when you can see it for yourself and you can activate it yourself. But and that was, I had never experienced an orb until I found that first contact phrase and used it myself. I think I got a bit off track there, but they are beings that have reached out at multiple points across history, and they've always been at points when we have advanced in civilization. They've taught us agriculture in history and other, helpful civilized tools. I've found some really interesting stuff that I'm going to be releasing based on the syllable words that we now know are not mythology, because using it creates real world activation. You can see it. So then the stuff that you can't see, it gives it more validity.
So it would be safe to say that they are benevolent.
Of some kind, yeah. Or they are enlightened. They are beyond our understanding. They're more advanced, and they may not die, or they may die, but their consciousness continues.
Right.
I'm not sure. Yeah, we're still learning together.
Many people associate the Anunnaki with Sumerians. Do you think
Yeah.
that's who they are?
Well, this is a very interesting topic because one of my findings from an orb that I received in a response to using the language, this big blue, beautiful orb, I can show it to you. It's incredible. And within it was what described as connecting to Abzu, which is the deep waters of knowledge, which people often refer to as Enki, the god of the underwater stuff. I'm not 100. That's the thing is, I have no ancient Sumerian knowledge prior to this, which is why the findings are so incredible, because I don't have a big knowledge bank of all of this stuff. I'm finding out about it as I find it, right? But I think there's a misunderstanding with the Enki and the deep waters, because the way that it's actually described in the language is that it's the deep waters of knowledge, not the underworld. It is not something negative. It is knowledge. They refer to it as the deep waters of knowledge. So, but this phrase is not a contact phrase. This is one of the first directives that I found, and I call it, it's called a directive because there's actions. So it's more of like a process than any of the contact phrases were previously, where you just are speaking, listening to an audio, and looking at a visual. I'll explain that in a second. The directive is giving you actions to do. You know, light a candle, get a little tiny piece of grain, and then say these words with this audio, right? Very procedural. And it's really interesting because these phrases are not found in history. The words themselves are, but these are new phrases. This is like the contact phrases, the directives, they're nowhere to be found in history, but they work amazingly well. So this deep waters one I'm talking about, I call it opening the ear of wisdom, but you're supposed to be connecting with Enki, apparently. And so it does directly refer to the Anunnaki. And at another point in findings, there was another crossover with the Anunnaki. And they talked about having the authority of the seven. And this one was really interesting. I won't be able to show this one because it's somebody else's footage, but I do have a full breakdowns of it and fully what was inside and how to use it on my pages if you want to check that out. But I can describe what happened, which is another person on TikTok that I work closely with. He had an amazing connection with these orbs before he ever met me and found we found, and so I got him to test everything I found. And he had been just advancing his orb visitations, have just gotten unbelievably amazing. A lot of them I have on my page. And this one, he heard a whistle, and which is something I've heard a lot, and I've actually seen it. I'll talk about that later. But so he heard a whistle, and he was outside filming orbs, and he turns around, and there's what looks like multiple humanoid shapes between him and the door, him and his front door. And it looks like there's like 5 to 8 of these humanoid shapes kind of like fading in and out in this video, as if you're only seeing the electricity within the body, okay? Not an actual physical body. And I thought to myself, like, this is crazy. It has the same light behavior as these orbs. Can I break it down in the same way? And so I used the same process and found within the light, in the same structured pattern, 5 harmonizing voices. Okay. And they are just offset enough that I was able to extract each one individually. I have a frequency that matches each one, a frequency pattern that matches each one, the spoken syllables that match each one. And they were harmonizing together to come across in this format, I'm assuming. And within it, they talk about having the authority of the seven. And I'm like, what does that mean? So I'm trying to understand, what does the Sumerian civilization and the Arcadians and other ones that match, what do they refer to the authority of the seven as? And a lot of it points to the Anunnaki, the authority of the seven being the main seven Anunnakis, the main seven god aliens. But after I unraveled another one of his orbs, which describes the seven as being these seven glyphs that I extracted from a secondary orb. And it says these seven glyphs are representative of this cycle happening. And it gives us these steps to sign the cosmic registry, which again is an Anunnaki type thing. They talk about it, they call it the Emerald Tablet. But in a few different cultures, they refer to it as different things. And what it all relates to, even though they all have a slightly different interpretation, it all relates to putting your intention in a permanent sense into the cosmos and actually signing this forever thing saying, I am here with this intention, to be called back on later. It's very interesting. There's a lot to it, honestly. But so the Anunnaki does get mentioned, is what I'm saying, but I don't know anything for sure.
Most of my guests that see orbs,
Yeah.
maybe a significant number,
Mhm.
feel love when they see them. And they'll even tell the orbs, I love you, and things like that. Do you feel the same way?
100%.
Why is that?
100%. This consciousness that is within the orbs, whatever is reaching out and has reached out across humanity, has only ever reached out to help us advance. They are fully universal understanding. They are full universal love. They are advanced enough to acknowledge that differences don't make us any less. We are all the universe experiencing itself, and we are all connected. And what affects us affects them, whether that's interdimensionally, interplanetary, it doesn't matter. This entire universe is connected. And I don't think it's a selfish reason that they don't want our bad behavior affecting them. I'm sure that's part of it as well. But I mean, it's more of they have a joy in helping us, in encouraging a younger civilization. For whatever reason, it's their purpose or their enjoyment, I don't know that, but I do know they are full of love. There is nothing to be afraid of with these orbs, with the consciousness behind them or their purpose. If anything, they're here to help us get out of the mess that we are in right now. They have clearly described in I was reached out to with some footage of this incredible experience someone had, and is over top of a mountaintop, and I think they were in the desert or something, and they watch orbs. So this is like a regular thing for them. But there was more orbs than I can count in this video. And some of them were still in the sky, and there was 2 rows of them going up in either direction, like as if like they were being shot out. Boom, 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 in opposite directions like this. And then there's still ones across the sky, and then there's one because I tracked them. There's one that slowly moves across the whole thing. Okay. Very strange behavior, incredible thing to see, and in no way stars. You know what I mean? Like, this is very intentional movement. Even the ones shooting off in different directions were moving in perfectly mathematical increments. Like, everything is perfectly mathematical because math is nature's true language, right? And that's why this language that we're finding, that it's universal language, because we're speaking frequency, and frequency is math as well, right? So anyways, this incredible visitation, there's these things shooting off all over the place. I unraveled 5 random orbs. I just, some from the ones shooting up, some of the stills, and one that was going across. So I picked 5. And within those 5, like, I wish I could do them all. I just need more time in a day. But each of those 5 mirrored the same concept. And 1 or 2, I can't quite remember, were English phrases, whereas all the others were the regular syllable words. And there's only been maybe 5 times out of the, like, close to 50 orbs that I've unraveled so far that I've found an English phrase. So that's very rare. But they describe a cycle ending on this planet, remembering of ancient knowledge that has been taken and hidden from us, so that we aren't aware of the effect we can have on our own environment and the world and our own lives, our own experience. They talk about the cycle ending and a new cycle beginning, about needing to balance the field, both the field for them and for us. And yes, this remembering happening. So, and I'm going to be doing a video about this soon too, is if you look at all of the phrases I've pulled and all of the English, everything, if you pull it all together and look at all of it, every single thing mirrors each other, which is the purpose that they're here, which is to balance, to stabilize truth, to awaken insights within our own cells and our own bodies. And that's why I had somebody recently ask me in a Instagram video. They were like, "Oh, I heard somebody say the orbs are monitoring us and they're the government and da da da," right? And aside from the fact that the technology that they would need to be able to inlay what I'm extracting is, there's no way. But let's just pretend for a second that they do have that technology and we just don't know about it. They sure as heck wouldn't be giving us this information. They wouldn't be trying to stabilize this environment. They wouldn't be trying to awaken this ancient knowledge that they've stripped from us. You know what I mean? They're here for positive purposes with love and good intentions. And the only thing monitoring anybody that I'm aware of would be the reverse engineered drones that popped up in Jersey that are monitoring the orbs. And I say this because when I play out these frequencies and speak the frequencies, the only time I see drones in my area, these kinds of Jersey drones, they show up every time and just fly by. I don't think that there's anything they can do for these orbs because of their plasma light based. Even if they flew right into it, it would just dissipate and then they'd breathe it back into existence. You know what I mean? So I think they're aware of the orbs. I don't think they know what's inside of them necessarily, unless they've caught my page yet. But I think that they monitor those orbs because they can't stop them. So all they can do is make sure they know what they're up to as much as possible.
How did you figure out how to summon them? And can you teach us?
Yes. Okay. So the first full contact phrase I extracted, The understanding when you cross-reference those specific syllable words in this specific order, the way the ancient Sumerians would use this as a what they would call like a mantra triad. They're using their three senses. Okay, so let me just say every orb contains three mirrored pieces. Okay, they contain a layered audio, so layered frequencies and pulses all happening at the same time that I then, after unraveling, I regenerate them together, creating an audio we can hear of that exact behavior. Okay, the movement, the frequency and pulse. That is our audio sense. Okay, then the syllable words that get extracted from within that structure of the pulses, which that is actually a Morse-like binary code. It produces these syllable words. Okay, so that's our spoken frequency. So we're speaking the same exact mathematical thing we're listening to. Okay, so aligning our frequency with audio, aligning our frequency of our own bodies with verbal, and then within certain moments of that structure, the flicker and pulse, as I mentioned, it creates like an energy pattern, an audio that creates a geometric shape. So when I'm able to pull those geometric shapes, they're implanted within this to visually match the mathematic frequency we're speaking and listening to. So it hits all three of our senses, our visual, audio, and verbal, which really is clearly an effective way to fully align with this incredible, very key lock frequency that that specific orb is producing. And whatever orb, each orb so far is carrying its own contact phrase with its own purpose. And this first one that I extracted was, I call it the open contact phrase, because it literally describes opening the gates of contact between whatever being is speaking this out and the being reaching out via orb. It's meant to open those gates. And when I when I found this the first time, it was really exciting because as I said, I hadn't experienced orbs yet myself, and I thought this is too incredible. So I gave it to one of my friends on TikTok, the one that I mentioned, who had been advancing his orb visitations. So he started using my findings, and the response that he got from using the open contact phrase. Okay, I actually just did a quick screenshot of the phrases itself and the response that I got. So I can throw that up on the screen if you would like.
Sure.
Would you like me to do that? Okay.
Yeah, let's go ahead and have you share.
So this is the first half of the spoken syllable words for the open contact mantra. I called it a mantra at the time because that's sort of how the Sumerians refer to it, but it's more like a contact phrase. So I've changed the terminology, but where you see mantra, I'm talking about a contact phrase. So this is the first half of it, and it's interpretation when cross-referenced with those ancient understandings of those syllable words. So when you're pronouncing, or should I start explaining that part?
Do you want to just say it?
Yep. So we go right into it. So we start with fa, fa, for, fa, fa, for, fa, and then you breathe. For, breathe. Fo, 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 breathe. Ha, ra, ra, ta, e. And that is the first chunk. And you repeat that a few times. But what you are saying when you pronounce those words is, by the divine will or sacred hand of fate, the breath of life is opened and sent forth from the sacred house. The sacred house being yourself. You are your temple, you are your body. Okay, so by the divine will, or it's referring to the powers of life, right? So by whatever the source is, by its will and or sacred hand of fate, like You know what I mean? It's very flowery language, but it breaks down quite clearly. And then it says the breath of life is opened. So the knowledge within the breath of life itself is opened and sent forth from your own body. So you're basically pronouncing the breath of life. Okay.
At what speed do you
Mhm.
pronounce this? Like, do it
Yeah.
as if you were outside doing it for real.
Okay. So I'd take an inhale, pronounce ba, ba, or ba, and then I would exhale. So I'll just exactly like that. Ba, ba, for, ba. Inhale, for. Exhale. Inhale, fo. You extra pronunciation on the capital. And then exhale. Inhale, ha, ra, ta, a. Okay. Now I make tutorials for every contact phrase I extract. I pull the, like I said, I make what I refer to as the transformer frequency. I call it that because it's a rebuilding of that flicker and pulse within the orb that matches the words you're speaking. This is the first one I ever made, so I don't have the same kind of breath chart that I have on my new ones, where I literally break it down so that it's structured breathing to match the audio and the visual glyph. So this one, it just says breathe between, but some of the newer ones will actually give you a count, like breathe in for a count of 2 and then pronounce it this way. So this is this is my first one ever, so it's a little different. But okay, so then there's a second part. So there's the reason I want to show you the interpretations of these. The first 2 parts is very important because the third thing I'm going to show you is the response that was extracted from that extraordinarily colorful response orb, the first one ever gotten by my friend who used it.
Before you
So,
go there, if we just go outside and do this mantra number 1, that
yeah.
will get them to show up.
You want the second part of it as well. These 2 are connected.
Okay.
But yes. And the amazing thing is, and I didn't even think this would be possible, but it absolutely is effective as well. As I said, I make tutorials. So in the tutorial, I do a quick explanation, and then you can breathe the words along with me at the correct pacing while the audio, that transformer frequency, plays in the background and the glyph is on the screen, the geometry image from the orb. And when I told my stepdaughter about my findings and everything for the first time, because I waited a bit to tell people what I was doing, but so when I told her about it for the first time, her and her boyfriend went home. They're older. She's 25. She's my stepdaughter. So her and her boyfriend went home and played my tutorial out in their apartment. They did not even speak the words along with me. And then they went out onto their porch and there were multiple orbs. Some of moving orbs, even some of them were moving, some of them were still. She took a video and you can hear her and her boyfriend going, "Oh my God." And, I unraveled one of those of her very first orbs to prove to her that, you know, it's like responding, you know what I mean? And so we have a phrase from her response orb from just playing the audio of me speaking it without her even joining in. So I'm thinking the tutorials are more effective sometimes than there's even meant to be, because the human body speaking it out, it's you are the signal. You know what I mean? You're just like the orb is carrying that signal. You using these 3 pieces or any of the pieces, um, you're creating that signal out into the environment, right? And it's like dropping a pebble. And this is why a lot of them are ones that they want you to repeat it a certain amount of times or until you're comfortable. It's like dropping a pebble in the water, right? And you drop it in the same spot over and over again, and that wave of the ripple is going to go out farther and farther. So when we're repeating this frequency, we are sending our signal out farther and farther into the cosmos, across dimensions. How, you know what I mean? So, and they connect, they hear it and they respond. It's incredible. But yes, so if you took it out and you spoke it out, they show up. That's how it's been working. I've only had a few people. Oh, it's been so few people who have had a couple tries to get it going. And I've had 2 people tell me that they've never been able to activate it yet. But out of all of the people who have activated it, and uh, everybody who has reached in and given it a try, it's the effectiveness is all the way across. It's incredible. I've even had people who do CE5 from Dr. Greer's CE5 stuff on a regular basis. And they say that this is a faster and stronger reaction. It's but like, I guess it makes sense because it's from them themselves. This isn't something like I made or came up with. This isn't anybody's handiwork. You know what I mean? This is directly from the source itself. They are reaching out and giving us an opportunity to participate and respond, right? So I think it's important that we do.
Let's see mantra number 2.
Okay, so this is the first half, and then so this is the second half. That's the thing, is this first one is quite long. Some of them are very, very short, and I love those ones because I can keep them memorized and just, say them every time I go outside. But some of these are much longer. This one is a long one. So this is the second half. So I'm going to do the same thing and just pronounce it. There's way less in the breathing chart in this one. I find that hilarious. I need to redo this video, but that's okay. So this was my first one. So phonetic pronunciation. So you're saying Duku, Ruka, Raka, Raka. And there is a space there. There's supposed to be a breath there. Raku, Ruku, Ruru, Kara. Same thing. You take a breath. Kuru, Kuru, Ru, Ra, Ra, Ka. Take a breath. Ra, Ra, Ka, Ra, Ka, Ra, Ka, Ra. And I would say it at that speed. Like I said, with the older one, the newer ones, I have breathing charts that go along, and this one needs some work, but it is effective. So what you're saying in English, the translation for the second half of what you're speaking, is you're saying construct the holy radiant structure. Now, holy as in source, whatever you refer to source as being, okay? I find that very important to say because source can be a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And I think that in the grand scheme, terminology is causing us a problem in our, a lot of, we already have a decided meaning for certain terminology. And I think that it's important to recognize that this is the grand scheme in whatever way that you feel comfortable with. So construct the holy radiant structure, rise through the sacred gate, radiate through the channel, repeat the signal, activate the portal again. And I thought that was very important. Repeat the signal, activate the portal again, because this is a communication that humans have had in the past at different points in history. And that's, like I said, how we're able to find the understanding for these wild syllable words that are coming out. It's literal spoken frequency. You're saying, you're saying the audio you're hearing. It's a matching system. And now if you looked at those two translations for that full phrase, the two sections, and then look at the response. Are you ready? Are you ready for me to switch that one over?
Yeah, you can go ahead and switch. You say these two mantras, and now this is the response that they're going to give you back.
No, not necessarily. This is just the one that came in the first response orb ever.
Okay.
They respond, every orb that responds to us reaching out, every single one I've unraveled has a unique contents. It is all extracted and structured in the exact same way and formatted in the exact same way, but every orb is carrying a different process or message or intention. They are all unique. So this is the response that came from the first one that ever, like, this contact phrase, I hadn't even used it yet. Nobody had spoken it out into the world ever until I gave it to my buddy who was already seeing these orbs on a regular basis. And as I said, when he used this contact phrase, the visual difference in the orb that responded was insane. It was every neon color you could think of all at once. And he has, as I said, if you scroll down to his previous orb videos, because he shared them daily, none of them have ever looked like this before. And since then, everyone, because he's been using every single one, they continue to advance into some really incredible orb formations. That's why I say previously when you asked me if there's more than one type of orb, and I said like there's the ones that show up in photography and indoors and such, and how that's a different kind of orb. Even within the orbs that I do work with, the ones that carry these signals, these advanced Merkabas being breathed across worlds, everyone is unique, but some of them are extremely advanced. Some of them flicker at a different rate. I have to alter my timing system sometimes. I have to, do different depths. Some of them are so much more condensed. And some of them look so much more so different. I've had some that look um like the North Star that you'd see in a like in a comic book, like a blue like X, basically the way you'd see those kinds of stars. And it's really incredible because it actually, if you look at it closely, it looks like the shape of a person holding a light ball in their hand that's radiating really, really brightly. And I have a video, I break that down showing that as well, because actually in the ancient Sumerian cosmology, and within they have sculptures of these humanoid shaped, with a elongated top skull, so very alien looking, or different being, and they between their hands are holding the Merkaba shape, which is a triangle, one pointing up and one pointing down within each other, right? That's the geometry of the Merkaba, and what you think about when you activate it as a mental travel. It's all very interesting. It all connects.
So you're saying that the very first time that this was used, the mantras, by your friend, this is the response he got.
That's right.
Okay.
This is what came within. Yeah. So so basically in English, the beacon, so the temple itself, heard the dual tone, which is interesting because we're playing out the audio and we're speaking this repeated phrase. Okay. The code, me, is at the gate. Now, I've described this in previous videos. Me, in reference to ancient Sumerian understanding of this cosmology, is the principles of existence. It is knowledge about the energies and life itself. So when they're saying the code me is at the gate, they're saying all that knowledge that you guys are missing and needing, all the truth, the stabilizing truth that would balance this planet, all this stuff, it's at the gate. And it mentions the gate, which is what was mentioned in the phrase we spoke. It talks about the gate. So, okay. So then it says pattern is delivered, transmission complete. It's like, oh, it's a ridiculously accurate response to the literal translation that we are speaking. For that to be an accidental, like, it's impossible. Like, this isn't noise that just kind of sounds right. You know what I mean? These are direct responses. It's mind-bending. When I saw this, I just lost my mind. The video I have about it, I said, that's it. I'm contacting the news. Because I'm like shocked. After I had this one, I go, that's it. I officially have found something incredible. And that's when I tried it myself for the first time, filmed my first orb, unraveled that one, which gave us a second step, technically, to opening gates of contact. This next one that I unraveled from my response to this same open contact phrase, the second time it had ever been used, I call the prep and transmission mantra triad because it is meant to create a line of trust between the being speaking the word, the human being or whatever being is using this triad of language, and the being or the consciousness reaching out from the orb. So this first phrase we have is to open the gate, and the second phrase I ever got was to create a line of trust. It's just beautiful and amazing, and too perfect to not be nature. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so interwoven, like the way that everything in nature mirrors itself. You know what I mean? There's a spiral everywhere you look, and everywhere that you go as far out or zoom in as close as you can. It's the same with these orbs, because it's nature. It's made with nature, and it's made with the principles of existence, and it's created using those principles of life and knowing how to use the energies around us. It's nature, and that's why it's so perfectly woven. And that's why I say it cannot be man-made, because there's no way we have the technology to interweave this incredibly complex math across visual, geography, spoken syllables, and layered frequency, all within a light that behaves like plasma. And not just that, but a light that behaves like plasma that's free roaming. We can't even, you know, when we use plasma, it's in a contained way. They have to have it in a contained environment, and they have it very controlled because it's very easily disrupted. It's not easy to control. They just don't have that sorted yet. And even if they have it more sorted than they're explaining to us, it's definitely not this sorted. So this is the biggest response, most incredible response I got. I'm releasing a video very, very soon discussing some findings from a video that we'll talk about another day, or something called, well, it's a deer, what looks like a deer, and two orbs, okay? So these two orbs that I unraveled and work in tandem gave us the formula for how they activate these orbs. And ideally, with practice, we will be able to create our own advanced orbs. But that's a whole nother discussion. But using the short form of the phrase that came out of that is what got this response. And so I'm just going to play it. I don't know if you see the orbs come up from the ground. There he goes again.
So are we seeing the UFO with the lights across and then orbs coming up flying towards it?
Yes. So what I'm showing here is the same clip over and over, and I'm just altering the lighting so you can see it clearer, like the brightness. Only altering the brightness so that you can see the lights and the form a little bit clearer in the darkness of the sky. And I zoom in a little bit. So what you're seeing is on the right side of the screen, it just materializes basically, goes to the left a bit, does like a kind of swoopy, and then zooms off up to the right, and 3 orbs trail behind it. And then this footage is just going to repeat. Okay. So I'm going to play it again so you can see that actually with the knowledge of what. So that's it zoomed in. And there it is. And then you see an orb come up from the bottom, another orb from the bottom. They're just farther away. Starting the footage again. Whoop, there he is. There's the trail. I tried to zoom in on it to show it as much as I could.
Was this UFO pretty far away?
It was probably the distance of a high airplane. Like, yeah, like an airplane, not one that's like a super low airplane or nothing, you know what I mean? But like a little ways up. So it's, the airplane's a little bit small, but seeable. What I saw visually with my eyes, because I watched it go all the way across before I actually pulled my camera out because I was so scared I was going to lose it with my eyes, what I was tracking with my eyes. I looked up, I saw what looked like a ripple. You know how you see, like if you're in a canoe or something and you see something in the water just under the surface, and it's just barely breaking the surface and making that little wave, right, off of like the motion. That's what it looked like to my eyes. And when I looked at it the first time, I thought, what is that? Like, that's not, I couldn't figure out what it was. For a second, I thought, was it a V of birds or something? Like, was it like I couldn't figure it out and I couldn't stop staring at it. And I'm like, this is so weird. I didn't want to lose it with my eyes. So I had my phone in my hand because I was playing my frequencies while I was speaking. And uh, just at the last second, I was like, just point it at it and hope you get it. You know what I mean? So I quickly filmed for the last like 2 seconds, and like it was gone after that. It was gone. The end of the video, it didn't come back. And I was floored. I stood out there for a little bit longer, but I just needed to get back inside and see what I had got. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now that you showed me a UFO with the orbs, that suggests to me that that's where the beings are that are sending the transmission to the orbs.
It's totally possible. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know that part yet. The only stuff I say I can find and prove, you know what I mean? Otherwise I hesitate to say.
Once you improve the communication, maybe they will eventually say, we're in here.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. This can only advance.
We just kind of scratched the surface of what you've been researching here, and I'm running out of time, so I want to do a second video with you. But before we go, what is your YouTube channel so people can go watch the videos for themselves?
You can find me almost on any social media, but I'm always at don'tpet.ufology. You'll find under that name, I have Don't Pet Creations. That is my art stuff. But if you find don'tpet.ufology, that is all of the orb stuff. I am the most activity is happening on TikTok. If you check out my comment sections, you can see what I'm referring to about how many people I'm helping actually begin their orb visitations. My comment sections are very supportive and it's beautiful. But on Instagram, I'm still, growing that one. I started it later, and but everything is there. It's totally caught up. So whether you're an Instagram or a TikTok user, you have the same information. So you don't have to use both. You can just follow whichever one you use. On YouTube, I have an account and it is getting caught up. It is not all the way caught up, but there are a good bunch of videos. The open contact phrase tutorial is there, as well as a lot of other great stuff. I just need to catch up to where we actually are with all of the research and videos. And as I said, there's multiple tutorials. And I'm working on a web page that will have a full library archive so that you can access all 3 of the pieces from every orb individually and together. It will have field guides that you can download with the breath chart and full explanations. I have it all getting put together on a website. So
I'll put a link in the video description to your YouTube video of the open contact phrase.
yeah, good idea.
So what kind of artwork are you making?
I do a lot of different things. I'm a multimedia artist. I first started this Don't Pet Creations business just with my husband, and we do all sorts of wild things, altering toys. I have straight from My Little Ponies that have been repainted and sculptured into like Beetlejuice, like the snake, and so much stuff. My husband was doing what we were calling abominations, and there are a bunch of different characters together with sculpting and painting involved. Very wild and unique. Everything unique. I do sculptures, so I have like the predator head as a sculpt and stuff like that. And then I go right down to I'm focusing these days more on canvases, and I've been painting canvases and doing custom pieces for people. I was contacted recently, for the sweetest lady, and she wanted a painting of her children conceptualized as these little rats like sneaking down to the pantry to steal treats. And it just turned into this incredible painting. You can see it on my page, but yeah, I have a lot of fun with that stuff.
That's
That's
cool.
my 2 loves, art and UFOs.
Art and orbs.
Art and orbs, yeah, that's what I'm all about.
Well, Desoray, before we finish up, can you leave us with a last positive message?
I think that we're all feeling the pressures of this earth right now. And the fact that what we're finding within these orbs is a direct relation to correcting and learning to live with the planet and the energies of the world and our own bodies, learning what we can actually do and activate and have access to. It's just such a beautiful thing for them to be bringing, and I can't imagine being interested in interplanetary or having any interest in this kind of stuff and not wanting to connect in such an incredible way. and having such a positive reach out. Like, they're not just like, hey, we're here, you know, they're not telling you the truth, but we're here. That's not what they're doing. They're here to help, and not just for us and not just for them, for all of us. And that's the words that came directly out of the orb, is let's balance the field for all of us. And I think that's important, is that this is about every single one of us, all the way across dimensions, planets, doesn't matter.
Desoray, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. I look forward to another one.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.